Salute, Monday Night Raw, 11/13/23. Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn along with Sethington Rollins. They start this show off middle of the ring, a Judgment Day not far behind. The Day of Judgment hits the ring. All of these gentlemen that will be in War Games facing off. Now, the Judgment Day tries to plant seeds of animosity and doubt within Team Cody, trying to turn them on one another, and I'm not sure how many coffees Sami Zayn had last night, but that dude was as amplified as I've ever seen him. Sami Zayn came full of passion. Sami Zayn could have wrestled 3 WrestleMania main events in a row, a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday, and still be ready to go on Monday night. That's how amplified Sami Zayn was. This dude was ultra amplified. That's the passion I want to see more out of Sami Zayn. And Cody flips the script. He tries to turn the Judgment Day on one another by posing one simple question. When Mommy's not around, who truly runs Judgment Day? And the answer, Finn Balor was not happy about. Because out of frustration, Damien Priest shouts out, I am Cody, I am the leader of Judgment Day. Everybody stops for a second. Yeah. Wait, what? What? Everybody looks over at Damien, but none more vividly. None more as bluntly as possibly can be in facial expression than Finn Balor. That dude looks over at Damien like, hold up. Did we talk about this beforehand? He was not happy about it. Balor was absolutely not happy with that declaration. I thought that was great. And it's really good because this plants the seed for Judgment Day at War Games. Right? Because afterwards, I'll go over this now because it makes sense. I think this was like hour 2 or hour 3. I was going to hold off, but it makes sense if I correlate them together because they belong together. So there was a backstage segment later in the night. Now at this point, Judgment Day, if you're not involved in the tag title match in the main event, you're supposed to be banned from the arena. I'll get to that segment in a moment. But there was a backstage segment where Judgment Day was together and they said, all right, we appoint you the leader then for War Games. We think you're the dude to get the job done at War Games. Now this plants the seeds for Judgment Day to lose that match next Saturday night. And who's to blame? The leader, right? Who do you blame when your NFL team totally just crumbles, implodes? The blame usually falls squarely on the quarterback before anybody else, right? Coach will get some too, but if you totally imploded, chances are your quarterback did nothing. Right? And I've seen enough of those little reality competition shows to know that when you do one of those group outings, those group challenges, if you will, and they appoint somebody a leader and you lose against the other team, you're pretty much voted in to go to an elimination, right? Because you were the dummy to say, I will be the leader of this project, of this challenge. You better win. So this is one of those scenarios where he declared he's the leader. They looked at him, said, all right, you're the dude for the job, right? Because they're washing their hands with this. It's just like one of those reality competition shows, right? They want nothing to do with this just in case it goes awry. Because easily War Games can go either way. It's a 50-50 toss-up. Judgment Day knows this. So, if you want to be the leader for War Games, if you want all the responsibility, if we win, we'll say kudos. If we lose, you're on the hook. So I actually don't mind that start at all. It does a lot. And again, to the casual fan, maybe you truly buy into animosity with Team Cody, the faces. Because there was a really well done segment It was actually later in hour one. Really good backstage segment where Sethington was about to leave the arena. And again, I'll get to why in a moment. But Cody catches up to him. And maybe I'll discuss that briefly when we get over to that. But they did a really good job in hour one of just getting you a little bit more into this War Games match. Because if not for anything that happened at the start of last night's show, I can't tell you I was that into this, because we've been seeing the same wrestlers all of Judgment Day, and Cody and Sami Zayn and Sethington, just non-stop, just fighting the New Day every week, every show, every month for 2023. And now you're just adding a ring and putting a fence around it, right? But this, man, you're starting to see some type of a story develop, right? All of this animosity planted, all of these seeds of mistrust. And that's all we ask for, right? At the end of the day, bare minimum, just start a story of some sort. Like, let us think of something more than just they're going to be wrestlers in a wrestling match. There's got to be more. They fight each other every week, so it's a storyline. No, they're just fighting each other every week. I don't know what the story is. They don't like each other because they work together. So this was good. This was a welcoming sight to see. And they spread this out over several segments because, again, that was Q1. So in Q1, you had this face-off, Judgment Day and all the faces for War Games, and they're each trying to plant seeds of mistrust, animosity, and doubt within one another. And then Damien proclaims he is the leader of Judgment Day, and he will lead them to the promised land. Victory next Saturday. And then we went to, and again, Balor at the time was not happy with that. They thought about it, and later in the night, they said, all right, it's all going to be on you then. We better win, or else it's literally on you. Your ass is on the hook. And they already just got a new member last night. Last night, they officially brought in JD McDonutts. He got his little vest and his t-shirt. He got his welcoming pack, right? They gave Damien a duffel bag, like a full of goodies. Like if you do a 5K or a 10K and you get a bunch of stuff, you get a little snack pack for afterwards, maybe a t-shirt, you get the medal. This dude got a little snack pack duffel bag for joining the Judgment Day. We'll get to that too. But after a commercial with that whole Q1, when we come back, we have Sethington, Rollins, and Sami Zayn versus McDonutts and Mysterio of the Judgment Day. What? Blasphemy, are you kidding me? Are you telling me that Sami Zayn was taking on the Judgment Day last night? That's revolutionary. I've never heard of a concept as such. Oh, man. If you're new to the channel, we always have a lot of fun with Sami Zayn taking on Judgment Day because literally he's been doing that all year. That's what we mean. If there ever was a storyline, most fans forgot what it was. They just fight each other every week. So last night was no different. Next Monday will be no different. War Games. And then I expect it to keep going after that. There's really nothing. On Raw, you only have them as the main faces. Gunther kind of gets, even though he's the IC champion and he should be one of the main heels in all the company, he kind of gets brushed to the side a lot. Like he was in some backstage segments last night. He was totally irrelevant. So it's really only like the Judgment Day. And then you just got to flip-flop all your faces against them. So it can kind of get boring. But this matchup was no harm, no foul. They get it over with because you still have Cody and Jay, two more of the faces in War Games versus two other Judgment Day members for the tag titles later in the night. So they're just splitting them up and having two different tag matches. For this match, it's thrown out after everyone involved in War Games hits the ring again, this time not to talk but to brawl. And Adam Pearce comes out. Now, Adam Pearce goes into his amplified bonkers mode. Lately, Adam Pearce is just losing it. Ever since Nick Aldis took over on SmackDown, Adam Pearce has lost it. And I like this Adam Pearce. This is a fun Adam Pearce, right? This is what I mean about a character being created, right? And sometimes it doesn't have to be a pro wrestler. It could be a manager. It could be a commentator. An interview. You never know. A character is like Jonathan Coachman somehow became a character. Go figure. I don't know if you guys remember Coachman. But you can become managers back in the day. They were characters. They were just as much a part of the show. It's not like today. Like when you had Jimmy Hart, the mouth of the South. Or when you had even Harvey Whippleman. I don't know if you guys remember these people. Bobby the Brain Heenan, probably a name that younger fans would kind of know. They were part of the show, man. And you never know when when and who. You look at Adam Pearce, you're like, all right, he's the authority figure for the last, what seems like for an eternity. But there's never substance behind Adam Pearce. Last night and last week, you started to see some substance, right? You start to see something. Adam Pearce is kind of funny, man. This guy's losing it. He's the boss. He's running out there. Enough! That's done! And what he does is he totally, after everybody's brawling, he says, not only is everybody not involved in the tag title match later, banned from ringside, you're all banned from the arena. You're done. Das Boot is what we call that in the business. You're getting Das Boot from the arena. So he's flipping out. Now, at that point, most of us insiders, if you will, I know we get a bad rap for that just because we know what's happening behind the scenes. Some of us like to know that. If you don't like to know that, you can always choose not to know about it. But if you knew, you knew that was the first seed planted for Drew McIntyre to turn heel last night. That was the first indication. Everybody's going to be banned. Nobody can help if Drew was to, show up, help the heels, help Judgment Day somehow. So that was the first indication that Drew McIntyre, this might actually be happening last night. Drew may actually turn heel, finally, after all this time and all of us asking for so long to just do the necessary deed and turn Drew. So that was the first indication. And again, with the start of the night, with all of these individuals trying to cast doubt on one another, and then you go into a match with 4 out of these participants, and then it ends in one of their better brawls that they've had over the last several weeks, because they've had many. And then Adam Pearce goes bonkers, and he sets up that big caveat, that big asterisk for the main event later, casting that big question mark. Will Drew turn heel? I mean, it just gives you something to look forward to, right? It's not just redundancy. Or just a tag match at the end of the show just to fill up time and then say goodnight, everybody. Because for a lot of us fans, we're not going to go along with that. We want to see this get better. So that gave us a lot, actually. There's all these little asterisks now, question marks. So it's very good. The first 2 segments, man, a different type of a flow. It's like Paul Levesque McMahon took a moment to go, what am I doing? Now, the whole middle of the show, a roller coaster. Just a bunch of matches thrown together. We're going to go over it right now, actually. But it's the start, right? Just think, like, should we start with a storyline and let it breathe? I don't care if it takes 2, 3, 4 segments, the whole first hour. Let one thing just breathe. You have 3 hours of television, guys. 3 hours. It's okay to take a major story, or what should be a major story, and drag it out. It's okay to do that. Take time. You got 3 hours to give fans wrestling matches so they can do moves and sequences. But if you don't have characters we care about and storylines that we want to really get behind, you have nothing in pro wrestling. You could do all the moves in the world. Nobody's going to care. Even if they chant, "This is awesome," and fight forever, they're going to forget about that match in 20 minutes and never go back and watch it again. And that's the truth. So the first 2 segments, salute to Paul Levesque McMahon. And I know Christopher Pritchard and whoever else is with their team, but that's what I mean. You just do things right, salute. And eventually ratings will back that up. Right? Because every time I rip a show or anything like that, the ratings will show that I was correct. But when you do this consistently, watch ratings slowly creep up. And that's what we're hoping for. So I love the first, not love, that's going a little carried away. It's been so long since we got something I truly liked. But I did like that first couple of segments. And even Q3, guys. Wait till you hear this. So they let this go to Q3. Because back from another break, Adam Pearce and Rhea Ripley are still in the ring. And Ripley's pissed off that her fellow teammates are banned from the arena later in the night. So she's trying to voice her displeasure and try to get Pearce to change his mind, think more clearly, don't piss off the Judgment Day. And here comes Zoe Stark. Now, before I get to that, let me just say, I love the fact that we went to another commercial. That's not what I love. I don't like the commercials. But the fact that we went to another one, and when we came back, we're still letting this story breathe. It's becoming a real story, finally, after all these months. I mean, because you can get behind it. They're taking the time and effort to let this thing breathe. And because of that, you're letting it sink in. You have a chance to let it sink in, to comprehend what you are watching, to conceive that all of this leads to something and cool and badass, something you truly would like to see. I love it. Third segment, we're still doing this whole Judgment Day Team Cody thing. This time it's Adam Pearce and Rhea still in the ring. Again, this is Q3, guys. We're going into 45 minutes into the show. Nothing else has been produced. Just this one War Games saga. Love it. And that's where, unfortunately, it ended for the saga, because Zoe Stark comes out, and this is the problem. Zoe defeats, I think it was last week, right? Zoe defeated Shayna Baszler, I want to say, and Zoe became the number one contender for Rhea Ripley's championship at Survivor Series. Now, the problem with that, and if you're new to the channel, I have propped up Zoe Stark when everybody else was tearing her down. So I give much respect to Zoe. I see potential. It's going to take some time, but I see it in her. So I'm not one of those Zoe bashers, I assure you of that. And there's many wrestlers where I have to be a little more harsh with, because a lot more needs to be addressed and changed up, and maybe they can be something. Zoe's not one of those people. She's actually a really good wrestler. She has these little areas that need to be tweaked, maybe flipped upside down, maybe a few things get rid of, add a little bit, and she'll be polished, ready to go. But when Zoe came out last night, man, the momentum absolutely imploded. And again, much respect to Zoe, but she has not been positioned to be in the spot that she is in. I hope that makes sense. They have not positioned Zoe. She's been all over the board. She's been this heel with Trish, and then all of a sudden says, goodbye, Trish. You think she's a face. They make Baszler this heel type character, and then they align Zoe with Baszler. So you don't know what she really is. And the booking flip-flops with her as well, so it's digging her hole even deeper. And then out of nowhere, she becomes the number one contender for Rhea Ripley's championship at Survivor Series. But she was playing around as a heel, by the way. And last night, they have her in a backstage segment where her and Baszler look like faces smiling with Raquel Rodriguez before Nia Jax enters, and her and Nia and Raquel have a face-to-face, and it looks like they're going to have a one-on-one match soon. Okay. But now Zoe is all of a sudden seamlessly turning straight face. Nobody knows what to do with Zoe, fan-wise. We don't know how to take her because the company doesn't know how to book her. And they just catapulted her into a title match. Well, won't you want to establish somebody, build somebody, and then put them in the match? And just to back up what I'm saying, guys, all you have to do is look at the evidence of the match. Look at the crowd, listen to the crowd. Absolutely, that was the first time in the night, 45 minutes nearly into this thing, where the crowd just was like, not sure about this. And they proceed to have a back and forth promo. Zoe and Rhea. And no kidding, guys. The crowd was in a coma following Q3. Legit. The crowd was so out of it. The crowd was so out of it that it took any momentum that Q1 and Q2 had. And that should not be placed on Zoe's shoulders. But you put her in a position to where she was not or should not have been in that spot. You didn't position her to be in that spot. That was rough. That was really rough when that promo was done and Zoe got out of the ring. And to hear crickets in that crowd, man, you could have heard a pin drop. And what sucked is I was like, well, it was I thought, a good start to the show. And they had a good idea. Keep it going into Q3, Q1, Q2, and Q3, all revolving around Rhea in the Judgment Day in this War Games thing. And they tried to integrate her title match, which would have worked if it was somebody the crowd cared about, which would have worked if you, the company, gave them a reason to care about it, to care about her. So that was really rough, man. I don't want to spend any more time on it, but that was the first time where it should have been good. 3 segments revolving around one saga, and it fell to the wayside. And this is what happens when individuals are put in spots they have no business being in yet. Now, the good news is we had a really good backstage segment, and this is what I was talking about earlier with Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. Sethington, again, banned from the arena with everybody else that is not involved with the tag title match. So Sethington is leaving the building. Now, this was like 15 minutes ago, he told you that, but he's finally gathered his gear. He's headed out. Cody catches up to him, and Cody is asking for one night to just trust him. One night to coincide. Can they coexist? And let's just take care of Judgment Day. And Sethington is looking at him. I love the camera. The camera was like really in on him, and it just felt organic. It felt like this was a real good, heated situation. It just felt right, man. I mean, this was really good. The facial expressions on both, mannerisms, everything was top notch. And Sethington says, I don't like you. I may never like you, but I have no problem working with you and doing the deed, the task at hand. And they pretty much have that mutual respect, right? It's Paul Levesque McMahon's mutual respect era. The night even ended with a handshake. But in all seriousness, man, I really like that. Sometimes it's the simplest things. As long as it feels real, it feels right. There's an organic nature to it. And all individuals involved are hitting their spots, hitting their marks, facial expressions, mannerisms. Everything is top notch. Man, you actually have what is called good television. And at the end of the day, pro wrestling, it's a television show. You can want all the matches in the world. You can do your chants. You can watch flips and dives. You can do all that. That's cool. It's still a television show. It's 3 hours of our primetime television. That's longer than a movie when you go to the theater. 3 hours. Get away from the ring and just do little things like that. And by the way, you tell me that that's not the best chance when everybody was banned from the arena, not just ringside. So you have to pack your bags and you have to hit the parking lot, the streets. Das Boot. You ain't gotta go home, but you gotta get the hell out of here. That was the time to do a parking lot or a street brawl. Really up the ante. Really captivate the audience, right? I always want these parking lot and street brawls with these wrestlers because it's a great chance to get away from the ring. You still have the big Titantron. The crowd is into it. But us at home, man, we're watching something we don't see often. Unless you're watching NXT. They do a lot of parking lot stuff, which I love. But with the main roster, they don't go back there anymore, right? Back in the day, it was the simplest of things. You could have a Corvette being filled up with cement. That happened, Stone Cold, and filling up Vince McMahon's Corvette with cement. Or monster trucks crushing the Rock's SUV or car, right? Or Vince McMahon's limousine is exploding. You just went back there. And of course, all the brawls. You would have wrestlers fighting at bridges in the town or the city that they were in. I remember Stone Cold and The Rock, I forgot which one, but one of them threw their Intercontinental title over the bridge and into the river. Little things. Go out. Explore. Explore the arena that you're in. Outside of it. All of these wrestlers that have been brawling for weeks anyway. Months, really. And now they're all banned from the arena. They're all outside now. It's no longer Pierce's problem. That was the time to take a couple cameras. A couple 2-3 cameras. Let's have some fun. Parking lot, street, let's rock. Judgment Day, Cody, Jey Uso. Or no. They're in the match. So it would be Sami and Sethington in the street, in the parking lot. With, who would it be? McDonutts and, who's the other one? McDonutts and Dominik Mysterio, right? because it was Priest and Balor with the tag title match. So let the rest of the 4, let them go out, let them brawl. And you could do it over a couple 2-3 segments too. Like, they cannot stop this brawl, right? You have the stunt set up where the cops come and they have to like break it up finally. I mean, that's a television show. We used to do that in the Attitude Era. You just spent time and effort on it. Resources. You got to get the cop car and the cop. You know, it takes a little bit of money, takes some phone call. No question. But that's when they cared about the show. This was the perfect time to take it outside. They're all banned from the arena. See, this is what BC thinks creatively. Like you just had fun with it. It's pro wrestling. You gotta have fun with it. You know, and that's what upsets a lot of us the most is when we see week after week, month after month, and really year after year, when the fun is kind of sucked out of it and it becomes redundant and it looks like they are not having fun. The management, the creators, the wrestlers are just going through motions. Have fun with it. Unfortunately, we did not get the parking lot or the street brawls, but it would have been awesome. But I do like the backstage promo. They kept it simplistic. Cody and Sethington, just trust me, one night, let's just coexist. And then hour 1 ended with Shinsuke Nakamura versus Otis of Alpha Academy. Shinsuke defeats Otis, but they did make Otis look strong in this match because it ended with 3 Kinshasas. Not 1, not 2, 3. All different variated too. So this is something you would see at a pay-per-view. Not saying you need to see Otis, not this version with the Alpha Academy versus Shinsuke at a pay-per-view. I'm not saying you would pay to see that, but the finish, right? The type of a match that it was and the way that it ended, right? You're really protecting the other individual. You can't overdo that with every match. Right? Because then you say, well, BC, you could do that with every match then, right? You can protect the guy losing by just giving 10 finishers, right? No. Because not only does that get redundant and it loses its relevance and prestige, but it will lose its effect. After 2 or 3 times doing that in a night, nobody's gonna look at that as being strong anymore. It's almost like, yeah, you should be kicking out of finishers 10 times. Because everybody does it. So you can't do that. But that was a good situation to keep Otis relevant. I love seeing Shinsuke get this run, by the way. You know, a lot of times people just get fed to somebody and they just don't have anything. And I do believe that was the case when Shinsuke lost to Rollins. I don't think they had anything planned, obviously. But at least they're dedicated to making Shinsuke look strong by booking him strong. They're feeding Alpha Academy to him. Tozawa last week, Otis this week, and the match is already official. Gable versus Shinsuke next week. And I do expect Shinsuke to win that match as well. So they're feeding a whole nother entity that I don't like to see lose, but watching Shinsuke collect W's and getting these vignette promos where he's talking all of this wild talk and people are trying to put a name to it. Is he talking about CM Punk? Is it just Chad Gable? Who's Shinsuke talking about? It's stronger booking than the usual. So it's good to see Shinsuke get that, especially after losing twice to the world champion. A lot of times when that happens, it is a hard, long fall. And you come crashing down because booking just has nothing. We took you to the promised land, a world title match. I don't know what to do with you next. And I think that was the case, clearly. But now they're just like, all right, we're just going to have you collect W's. Now, without something behind it, it'll lose its relevance, no question. AJ Styles, I always bring up AJ Styles because when you look at wins and losses, AJ Styles had anyway. I haven't checked in a long time, but AJ Styles before his injury was one of the best booked wrestlers. He won way more than he lost, but he wasn't relevant the past several years, right? So you never had a chance to really care about Styles other than his ability and knowing how good he truly is. But the company never had him in anything relevant or prestigious, so you kind of just put him on the back burner. You forgot he wasn't on a show here and there, right? I mean, AJ Styles was one of those dudes that was just planted in irrelevancy. But he won so much. He had so many W's. So, as long as you have a purpose, right? W for the sake of W will only get you so far. Eventually, you'll hit the brick wall, and the creative department has to have something. You know, wouldn't it be something if Punk was to come back with a Shinsuke Nakamura feud? Wouldn't that be? And even if Nakamura loses that feud, man, that's massive for that dude. But other than that, how they're booking Shinsuke is pretty damn good. Alpha Academy, on the other hand, I don't even... Wait till you hear what happened with them later. Because I'm not even... Like, there was a backstage segment where... I'll just wait. I think that was our... That's an hour 3. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Let's kick off hour 2, all right? Let's see if we can get back on track here. So hour 1 ends with Shinsuke defeating Otis. 3 Kinshasas. Shinsuke's booking is stronger. We just don't know where it leads to. Hour 2 kicks off with a really bad match between Tegan Nox and Piper Niven. Like, this was incredibly bad. And I'm not sure if there's possibly heat between the two or they literally just lacked any chemistry at all. But this was one of the worst pro wrestling matches I've seen in a long time. It was Piper Niven versus Tegan Nox. It's almost like, it was so bad, it was almost like they went out of their way to sabotage one another. And I'm not, obviously that's not the case. That's how bad it was. It reminded me of Thunder Rosa and Evilise in AEW. It was one of Evelise's first match, and Thunder Rosa. They were pretty newer to AEW. They were on live TV. I believe it was Dynamite, obviously. And there was animosity. They just didn't like each other. They had a lot of issues. So they went live, and they just stopped working. Evilise was not happy with the way Thunder Rosa was working and stiff and all that, and she just was no selling. And I think Thunder Rosa was no selling first, right? And then just stopped working, and then Evilise got pissed. I forgot who did what, but they both just went into business for themselves. Their personal feud took over on live AEW television. And it was so bad because I actually am a big Evilise supporter, and that was rough to watch. That was really rough to watch. It just reminded me of that. Again, Niven and Nox might be best of friends backstage, but it was that bad of a match. Like, you guys can check it out if you ever have to. I mean, I usually like to tell my audience that doesn't watch Raw, I usually like to tell them the good segments to kind of go back if you have time and check out. So it pains me to say check a match that was bad, but I don't think that my words are doing it justice, or maybe it just sounds too harsh, but it was a really bad match. And Tegan Nox, a lot of steps backwards after the injuries, so it's such a good story that she's able to come back, and Levesque McMahon has given her this chance and opportunity, but Tegan Nox has gone down many steps. So I wonder how bad these injuries really have. I mean, she's going out there with both knees stone colded up, with the braces. I mean, both legs are pretty much all bandaged up most of the time. And Piper Niven was totally off her game last night. It was just, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. That was rough, and I hope, for their sake, it's probably best if you never mix them up ever again. That's probably the best. Tegan defeats Piper Niven via pinfall from the hold 'em down, awe-inspiring, ultra-devastating Faroot roll-up. If you're new to the channel, I call any move where you're just holding somebody down, I call that a roll-up. No matter what variation it is, you're just holding them down. Now, now she did get maybe the shiniest of wizards was hit right before, but Niven was still up. She was still upright, She didn't get all of it. She was still sitting up. And then Tegan's like, well, maybe if I roll her up. Now, the problem with that is twofold. Number one, just realistically, it doesn't make sense. Little Tegan is not going to hold down Piper Niven of all people. And I don't know why this company loves to do that. I've seen Braun Strowman, Bob Lashley. I've seen some big dudes get rolled up like it makes sense. A Bronson Reed, an Ivar, just doesn't make sense because it's not realistic, right? Like little Ricochet is rolling up Ivar. I've seen things like that. So you have little Tegan rolling up Piper Niven. That's the first problem. It's not realistic. Nobody would ever truly believe that. Now, because of the shiniest wizard beforehand, maybe we can begin the discussion that it's believable. Maybe. I'll give you that one caveat. The other side, though, the other problem with this is it wasn't executed properly, right? If you watch the replay on this, Piper Niven's right shoulder wasn't even being held down. Tegan did not execute it properly. Now, Piper's a big woman. I get it. It's hard because Tegan's a little girl. Piper's a big girl. So it's hard to hold. So don't do the move if you don't think it can be executed properly. But Piper's whole right shoulder is not being held down. So not only is Piper twice the size as Tegan, her whole right side is not being held down. So you're the turtle that flipped yourself on your back. And then when you were already up against the curb so you can use that for momentum, you decide not to use the curb. It just looks so bad. And when I say this was a bad match, I'm not even counting the finish. The finish was the cherry on top. The match itself was one of the worst matches I've ever seen. And then you got Natty out there. Natty and Chelsea Green are doing antics. I don't even know. Natty was the best part of the match, though. Natty was just looking just ultra fine. That's all I'll say, man. The Booyakas were out and having fun last night. Her Booyakas. She was in a little skirt, but with like Jordans on or something. You know, she had like her sport kicks on. I mean, she looked pretty good, man. I don't know if she was showing up to a wrestling event or headed to the club, but at least Natty added some good visuals to an otherwise really hard to watch matchup. That's where I'll leave it, guys. The crowd was toasted at this finish. If you need any cherry on top of this review of that match, if you're wondering how true BC's words are, all you have to do is look and listen to that crowd during and after the match. It'll tell you everything you need to know, sadly. So again, I've noticed the regression of Piper and Tegan's performances as of late. But when you put them together, man, was that exposed tenfold. Now, I can't say the crowd was going to come to life next segment because DIY comes to the ring. And for the second week in a row, the crowd didn't even give them a golf clap. Now, I know it seems like you reached the harsher part of this review, but guys, this is what happened in hour 2. I mean, this is literally, the crowd had no reason to stand up the whole first part of hour 2. We're hoping the second part of hour 2 gets better. But DIY, as much as we respect Johnny Gargano and Tomasso, by the way, you know BC, individually, I think the world of both. But to throw them back together, I was the only one probably in the community to tell you, like, that's not a good idea, just to try to recreate magic in black and gold from years ago. It's a different time right now. It's a different audience, most part, especially the ones showing up. A lot of casuals, a lot of families, a lot of people winning these tickets on radio stations, not even paying for them. That's your crowd. And on top of that, Gargano and Tomasso have been dealt several injuries since those black and gold days. You're not going to get the same team. You're not going to get the same individuals, but at least individually with proper booking and care put behind their creative, they're going to be something special. You put them together, I can't tell you this is going to work. In fact, I told you it's not going to. And creative isn't even backing them. They're just having them lose every week. Or most weeks. DIY is just losing, whether individually or as a tag team. So that's not even helping the crowd try to care about them. But the entrance, the crowd doesn't even give them a golf clap. And that's so hard to watch Tomasso come out like a cheerleader character. If you watch Tomasso, he comes out and he basically does the Edge. It works for Edge. Tomasso's not that guy. He comes out high knee kicking. He's trying to do the Bret Hart, pumping up the crowd. Johnny Gargano gets in the ring and he does the thing, like the sailor thing, like he's looking out the 7 seas to see how many people are cheering and how loud they are, and nobody is. You could hear the proverbial pin drop. You could literally hear that. So rough to see. It's hard to watch because I know, man, this is just lazy booking to just throw them together and try to make niche fans go, whoa, black and gold is recreated. It's DIY. Yeah, DIY. Are we doing this? I told you guys that when they formed. Here we are. And if you're just wondering how true BC's words are, right? Ludwig Keiser defeats Tomasso Ciampa less than 5 minutes. And via pinfall. And via the awe-inspiring, ultra-devastating fruit roll-up. Second roll-up of the night, by the way. So this is just easy peasy finishing, right? It's no creativity put behind it. You just have a wrestler just get held down, right? We just saw it with, who was it? Was it the match earlier? Yeah, Piper Niven just got held down by Tegan. And here, Tomasso, of all people, who's supposed to be a badass, like my badass coffee. Tomasso's supposed to be badass. And he's just being held down. You know, BC, a little interference, man, outside the ring, man. Giovanni Vinci, as Samantha calls him out. Giovanni was around ringside. There was that distract. It doesn't matter. Tomasso wasn't knocked out by Giovanni or Ludwig. He got rolled up and held down. You can't think of anything more. If you're gonna have Tomasso lose, which I don't even know why you would have him eat another L. So Tomasso eats another L, and it's via the roll-up. And I've seen Tomasso already on the main roster eat 4 roll-ups, guys. Tomasso hasn't been on the main roster that long, and most of it has been spent in injury protocol, unfortunately. And I've seen him eat 4 roll-ups. Kennedy McMahon, Levesque McMahon. For some reason, they've lost touch on how to book Tomasso. And at least Levesque McMahon, back in black and gold, used to know how to. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe it was William Regal more than anybody. Who knows? But what I'll tell you is this is very odd. It was back-to-back roll-ups and the crowd, back-to-back segments and matches. The crowd was basically in a sleep-induced coma. Backstage, it was that very interesting segment I was talking about earlier with the Judgment Day. Balor, Mysterio were supposed to be out of the... No, Balor was in the match, right? So it would be McDonutts and Mysterio was supposed to be out of the match. Or out of the arena. I'll get this right. They're supposed to be out of the arena. This is an hour plus after Adam Pearce declared everybody is booted. Das Boot. And Judgment Day is all still together backstage. Minor details. Somebody want to tell them to get Das Boot? But they all declare that Damien Priest will be the leader of the group for War Games. Again, makes you think. This is setting the stage for Judgment Day to lose next Saturday. And the group will blame Priest. Yep. I mean, it's there if they want to do that. And that might have been that big seed planted. We'll see which tree grows from that seed, if any. Next up, my girl Xia Li. Wait till you hear this. This is what I mean about just solid booking. Props to Levesque McMahon for finally doing what is right. With Xia Li, by the way. That's what I mean. I give props when it's due, man. When I see something good unfolding, I love to talk about it. I just want to see more positive, please, so I can speak about more positive. And Xia Li last night defeats Indi Hartwell via knockout referee stoppage. And then, well, I'll get to the post-match in a second. Let me stick to that match first. It sucks to see Indi Hartwell lose that match. I was live before Monday Night Raw. A lot of you guys might have been live with me or at least caught it afterwards. Salute. I appreciate I appreciate everybody that was live with me, but also because I only gave 45 minutes notice, I also appreciate just as much those of you that still tuned in even though we weren't live after the fact. So much love and appreciation, respect to you guys. But I told you guys this is a match that shouldn't be happening because Indi Hartwell is too new to this crowd, the main roster. You have to give them a reason to care, yes. But just as important, you have to make the audience look at her as a winner, not a loser. And that's in every category. Because subconsciously, even the casual fan is taking inventory. So I don't like the fact that Indi is in this match because she has to take the L, right? The way that Xia's been booked the last 2 weeks, two to 3 weeks at least. Yeah, a couple 2-3 weeks. The way she's been booked, you can't have her just lose to Indi Hartwell of all people. This was a match that easily, just like Candice LeRae, they're kind of just feeding Indi over to Xia. So it sucks to see Indi have to eat that L, but damn, the way that Xia took that W. And it was perfectly done. I gotta give credit, just like I did to LeRae. When LeRae was knocked out by Xia Li a couple weeks ago, it was so real looking. Most of the wrestling community thought that was real. They got upset. They got upset when they found out that it was not real and it was part of pro wrestling, part of the story of the match. When they found out, they actually got upset because they were worked. And they were like, well, it shouldn't be done because concussions are a real thing. Have you seen wrestling today? Do you see how many wrestlers are getting dropped on their dome piece? That's what should be stopped. A wrestler shouldn't have to be dropped on their head, legit, 16 times a match, just for the crowd to do chants. Just for the crowd to chant, this is awesome. No. What Xia Li's doing is what looks like a really stiff kick and choreographed, rehearsed, pro wrestling-wise, knocking her opponent out. Not actually. Relax. And Indi's head didn't have to hit the canvas 16 times to do that effect. You're going to have these angles and stories that somebody's getting knocked out in pro wrestling. You have to have that. If you're going to get offended by that or get uptight with it or not like the fact that they're doing knockout angles in a pro wrestling ring of all things, that's probably not a thing to be watching anymore then, because you're going to get those stories and angles. Xia Li's whole story behind the character is that she is a legit combat fighter. And she's taking she's literally knocking you out. You can't even finish the match. That is a fun character. That's a fun part of a 3-hour show. Yeah, sign me up. And Candice LeRae took it just so beautifully, sold it so beautifully, along with Xia performing the move a couple weeks ago, that the whole community was in an outrage. First thinking that Xia actually did knock her out, and then realizing they got worked. And then they got upset, and then they said, well, it shouldn't be happening. No, what shouldn't be happening is what happened last Friday. Dragon Lee being tossed in the air just to land on his head. Or Ricochet landing on his head 6 times last Monday. And one of those actually gave him a concussion and stinger, by the way. That's what shouldn't be happening. But Xia Li doing pro wrestling knockouts? Not real, don't worry. Indi was fine. She was eating triple-layered mousse cake 20 minutes afterwards backstage. But Indi Hartwell sold that beautifully last night. And guys, if you saw this, the finish, I thought she was setting, the way they made it look so real is what's the best part. That's what Xia adds to this. And again, Candice and Indi, everybody that is being fed over to Xia, they're playing their roles beautifully. Because Xia, that was not the spin kick. That was just the roundhouse, I believe, the straight up roundhouse. She then hits the ropes to deliver her finisher kick. But Indi already fell. Indi was already rocked and knocked out by the original kick. Now, it's possible that Indi botched it and thought that was the finisher because she was supposed to maybe take 2 kicks, right? The first roundhouse and then the spin roundhouse. Maybe. In which case, it ended up looking beautiful because Xia was legit about to hit the next move, and Indi is just rocked, like almost shaking, like her bell is rung. Her head's a little up on the canvas, but her hand is underneath it, like she thinks it's on her hand. I mean, Indi looked rocked. And Xia Li's like, yeah, that's right. And the ref calls for the bell. Man, that's one of those things, even if it was botched by Indi, it came across even better because everything was it just looked so real. Xia Li, it's what she's always done. If you're new to the channel, you're going to hear me praise Xia a lot because I always say on this channel, even though she's been placed in irrelevancy for years since she's got here, because she started 2 years ago, maybe a little more. Because she pulled Paul Levesque McMahon aside a couple of years ago and had a real conversation. Like, she was not happy. And we heard that was with Paul Levesque McMahon, not Vincent Getty. Like, they had a real argument. And the word was that Levesque McMahon was not happy after that discussion, and Xia wasn't. Sure enough, Xia was placed in who knows where for years after that. But now she's getting that chance. And I've said, even when she was in irrelevancy, when Xia Li, if you ever see her again, pay close attention. She's one of those individuals where everything she does just comes across as just real, as badass. There's a believability and a realism factor that you don't see with most wrestlers. Xia Li, so badass, man. That was so awesome, and it's just really good to see, like just proper booking, man. You know, it's not one of those things where you're picking favorites, right? Levesque McMahon, just like Kennedy McMahon, they have favorites, and they have people they don't like. And you'll see that in booking. You'll see it. Just watch these shows clearly. You'll see who they like and who they don't. Certain people will be pushed more, certain won't. But then there's those individuals, whether you like them or not, just book them properly. They're ready to rock. And Xia's one of those. So I like when things that should be happening for the betterment of the company, the fans, the talent, I like when those are happening. Salute, Xia Li. And salute, Indi Hartwell. Takes two to tango in these rings and to make everybody and everything look really solid. And that ended hour number 2, by the way. So we start hour 3 with Miz defeating Ivar via the awe-inspiring, ultra-devastating Farut roll-up. Now, if you're keeping track, that's 3 roll-ups in one night. 3 roll-ups, guys. That's unacceptable. You know that. You cannot have the same finish. I would say that if you had 3 DDT finishes in one night, guys. I would say that. It's not just like I have a problem with just the roll-up finish, which I think is a cop-out finish. It's an easy way out because you don't want to get creative. So you just have wrestler A roll up wrestler B. Wrestler A gets the victory, but wrestler B saves face because they say, you squeaked that out, man. You caught me off guard with the roll. You held me down, man. It's a cop-out. And it happens so often, it doesn't even have validity anymore. There's no substance behind it. So I would say that with DD, if you gave Tombstone Pile Drivers, 3 Canadian Destroyer finishers for a 1, 2, 3 in one night, it's too much. But when it's a roll-up, it's exposed even more. It's amplified even more because it doesn't help anybody. It's not a definitive victory, and it doesn't make the loser look stronger or save face. So it all becomes a wash. It's all a throwaway. Like, nobody's going to remember this Ivar and Miz match. Nobody's going to care to talk about it. If we're not doing a review show like this, nobody's talking about this because it had no substance. So again, Hour 3 begins with Miz defeating Ivar via that roll-up, the 3rd roll-up of the night. And then post-match, Bronson Reed was out there. Bronson splashes Ivar post-match. Okay. Ivar, I feel bad for Ivar. Last week, he was supposed to pin Ricochet, and Ricochet was knocked for a loop. The lights were on, but nobody was home, so he kicks out, and poor Ivar doesn't get the simultaneous victory while Miz was pinning Bronson. And that's what was supposed to set up Miz versus Ivar. And the winner goes to face Gunther at Survivor Series. That's how this was supposed to play out, guys. That's why you still got the Miz-Ivar match last night. If you go back, was it yesterday? I put up a upload yesterday. And I actually take you through the anatomy of that match last week. The Fatal 4-Way, which Ricochet was injured in. But I take you through the whole anatomy. I show you where he got concussed, and I show you what happened at the finish. And I also take you through the post-match activity where Miz was not supposed to be attacked by Ivar last week. Miz was celebrating. The referee tells him last second because Levesque McMahon tells him in his earpiece, tell Miz he's getting attacked. Tell Ivar to get him. So Miz is on the second rope looking at the hard cam, and he's like, what? You can see him say what to the referee. And the ref says, Ivar's coming. And Miz is like, oh shit. And you see Ivar barreling toward him. And Ivar took it easy on him because he knew he was on the ropes. But Miz is trying to catch himself on the ropes. And then you can see the ref telling him, you got to eat a moonsault. And that's when Ivar hit the moonsault. So they still tried to set up Miz-Ivar for next week. I hope that makes sense. So Ricochet threw it all off track last week. But But to just throw Bronson Reed into this last night, like, what do you do? Like, it's almost like they're doing a double face turn with Miz and Bronson simultaneously. Awkward to me. Bronson Reed, of all people, you couldn't even establish him as a heel. That just failed miserably. So now you're just going to instantly turn him face, and judging by that crowd reaction, I don't know if that's going to work. A lot of care is going to have to be put into this if you're truly turning Miz and Bronson face. Backstage, Jinder Mahal and Indi is still trying to find Adam Pearce's office. Do you guys remember a couple weeks ago? Jinder Mahal shows up with Indi. Veer finally has found... I guess this makes sense. It took Veer months and months to try to find Monday Night Raw. Remember? He was coming to Raw for months. He's taking detours. He's getting lost. Raw would be in LA. He's in Eastern freaking Philadelphia. What the fuck is Veer? It took him months. He finally found Raw, and then he got lost again. He wasn't seen for months afterward. Well, now Veer is trying to find Adam Pearce's office with Jinder Mahal. A couple weeks ago, they're like, we're just trying to relax. We're trying to find Pearce's office. Here we are 2 weeks later, and he's still trying to find Adam Pearce's office. What are you talking about? You guys going in there and playing Battleship, Connect 4? A little bit of Monopoly, some Twister, some Yahtzee? Trading Pokemon cards, doing the Macarena? What are you doing? The fuck could Adam Pearce have to talk with Jinder Mahal this many weeks for? Anyway, more funny than the next segment, right? So that's Jinder Mahal trying to find Adam Pearce's office and Veer trying to find anything at this point. And then immediately afterwards, all the tag teams are backstage. This is one of those segments where you have nothing creatively, so you just put everybody together, right? So you have Alpha Academy, you have the Creed brothers, you have New Day. They're all backstage. And Tozawa has a Redskins title because they're in Washington, D.C. And Tozawa has a title. And he's like, I want to win tag team titles. Tag team titles, Tozawa. That's all we need to see. So, and he's got this Redskins, and he starts doing the Tozawa dance with the Redskins championship. Whatever that is. And the New Day is like, ooh, gross. So I think that's a play on Logan Paul, what he's been doing with the championships recently. So Xavier Woods is like, disgusting. What are you doing with that title? When he's, because he's fucking gyrating with the fucking title, to Ninja Tozawa, Aerobics Tozawa. So I guess Xavier was the funniest part of the segment, but I don't know what they're doing with Tozawa, man. They're really upping the ante on the Tozawa comedy act. You thought it was bad with Kennedy McMahon as a ninja and in trash cans and dressing up as Christmas trees with R-Truth. Levesque McMahon said, hold my coffee. We're going to make him aerobics Tozawa, and we're going to do the Tozawa dance and do weird things with the championships. I don't know, guys. But the live crowd was seeing it on the Tron, and the reaction was like, whoa, what just happened? Like if somebody walked in, like if you know somebody that walked into the room that doesn't watch wrestling, pro wrestling, like how do you explain what you're watching at that point? Like, try telling them that this is your pro wrestling. It was weird, man. It was really weird. Main event. Tag titles are on the line. Priest and Balor of almost a Damage Control. Judgment Day versus Cody Rhodes and Jason Uso. The Day of Judgment retains their championships. Drew McIntyre appears on the outside while Jay is out there. Jay looks at Drew because, Drew didn't really trust Jay anyway. Jay knows this, so Jay's looking like he just saw a ghost. But no, it's Drew. Drew's not happy. And Drew delivers the Claymore Party. The only difference is the party's over. And Drew is done playing. He claymores Jason Uso. He's pissed that he doesn't have the championship. It's clear. And he's done playing the nice guy role. And it's about time. He should have came back after his hiatus after Mania. He should have came back in London at Money in the Bank and took out Seth Rollins as a legit, bona fide heel. And then you have the match with Sethington, which they had anyway. They were just faces. It would have made more sense. It would have done wonders for Drew. But they held off. But beggars can't be choosers. Last night, Drew McIntyre cost Jason Uso and Cody Rhodes the tag titles. And they should not have been winning the tag titles either. No way should Cody get a tag. That was a botch when they first got it at the pay-per-view a couple pay-per-views ago. No. Cody and Jay should not be holding tag titles. Does nothing for Cody Rhodes. Keep them on Judgment Day. And Drew McIntyre, this is what we were thinking, man. This is the time to do it. If you're going to add him to War Games, you don't wait last second. He claymores Jey Uso, throws Jey Uso back into the ring, and Jey Uso is then subsequently pinned. Day of Judgment retain. Drew walks up the rampway and he stays there. Now I'm thinking if that's the way this is ending, you should just have him go through the curtain. Like, job done, business done, I'm out of here, right? I'm not sticking around, I don't need to. So I thought the corny, I'll stare at the ring and fade to black, I felt that was absolutely stupid. Unless you have something else planned. They did. Rhea Ripley comes through the curtain, stands next to Drew, just staring out. Looks at Drew. Drew looks at Rhea with that stare that Drew has. I love the concept of Drew as a heel. It's why I've been wanting it for so long, because I know this is going to be much better than face Drew. I said the same thing about Roman for 5 years. Nobody wanted to listen. We finally got it, and everybody was like, oh, heel Drew or heel Roman, better than forced face Roman. But Drew looks at Rhea. Rhea's looking at Drew. Rhea sticks out her hand. And you're like, oh, was this the deal from before, several weeks ago? I thought, because it could easily be Drew going into business for himself. No, this was the deal. Drew shakes the hand of Rhea Ripley. Mutual respect era. And they shake hands. Fade to black, go off the air. As Cody and Jay are like, damn it. What just happened a week before War Games? They got Drew McIntyre in the fold? And we went off the air. So, that's the finish that you like, right? Those are those little cliffhangers that are simplistic, but so damn effective. Drew McIntyre's heel turn. Now, you're starting to see a lot of turns. Some of them make sense. Some of them are just like, we're doing turns just to do turns, and we're doing it too rapidly. That's where Levesque McMahon has to relax. Work smarter, not harder. You know what I mean? Like there's turns happening like Miz and Bronson going face. Wait, what? Escobar is already turning on LWO, but LWO just formed a few months ago, this past summer. And he was one of the founding, already? There's weird turns going on. But then there's those like Drew McIntyre, where it's like, that's, or Asuka, who should have already been heel when she turned into the more Kana Asuka before WrestleMania, and then they just made her a tweener and then a straight face again. And now it looks like Asuka's bona fide with damage control. Cool. That's a heel turn that should be happening, just like Drew. So, that was a pleasant sight to watch. A good little cliffhanger. Again, simplistic, yet effective. And that's what we need more of. Not turns all the time, but endings like that. Like, leave question marks. Leave people wanting to see more. Needing to see more. That's all we're asking for. Make it fun for everybody, man. Make the finish fun. Rhea Ripley and Drew McIntyre shaking hands. Drew finally done. Playing to the crowd, coming out with a sword, coming out and smiling. Done with that. Drew McIntyre is a bona fide legit star in this company. Maybe now he can be looked at as such because he'll be booked at as such. That's the hope. That was a massive moment last night, and that really does set up War Games, and now he'll be added, and now there's a mystery addition to Team Cody. I hope they keep this fun. I don't know, you could do a CM Punk in Chicago, you could do the Randy Orton, which is what we're hearing. I really hope they're not going to go Kevin Owens. Like, they're not going to toy around, right? Something with Orton gets pushed to the side last minute, maybe. Because Owens was suspended by Nick Aldis this past Friday. So they could do a thing where, while I'm suspended, I picked up an extra paycheck over here from Pierce. I hope not. I respect Owens. I do. And it's not that he's not deserving to be in a War Games match. Of course he is, in a main event. Of course. But that's, if you're going to hype up a mystery man, and it's just Sami Zayn's tag team partner, Kevin Owens. I think we can do better. Guys, that's what I got for you, man. I believe this went well over an hour. There was a lot to talk about. There was a lot of just, the middle of the show was just a lot of matches just being thrown out that the crowd was just done for. They just didn't make noise, and I don't blame them. The start of the show and letting things breathe over 3 segments and the end of the show, simplistic yet effective. Loved it. Liked it a lot. I won't say loved. Liked it a lot. You know, if we can get the whole thing together, but, it just looks like Levesque McMahon just likes to just put a bunch of matches out there. And that's not going to work on a 3-hour show, man. But at least there was some good on this. At least there were some things where I'm like, all right, they're letting this breathe. Hey, that's a cliffhanger type finish. Hey, that's a heel turn that works. Hey, look at Xia Li actually getting the book and she deserves. Hey, Shinsuke, man, with 3 Kinshasas, they actually cared about Otis losing. There was something. You could pick some things here that you're like, I ain't gotta totally rip it. That's what I got for you guys. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we are out. BC saying check you. Peace.